Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 2 of Conversations in Pop Culture, where I have with me one of the guys that I think everybody should be watching out for in 2021, and that's professional wrestler, the prize, Alec Price. So, welcome to the show.
How you doing? I'm so psyched to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited too because you've been tearing it up back into 2020. I think it's safe to say, and so far in 2021, obviously the year is just getting started. But I think you've had arguably one of the best 2020s on the indies. And as I stated, I believe you're one of the guys to watch out for. But before we get into all of that and what's going on with Limitless Wrestling, I am curious, because you've been wrestling for about 4 years, how you even got into wrestling and how that journey sort of started.
I mean, I was a baby. My nana loved wrestling. That was one of her favorite things. She loved the Von Erichs. So like when she watched wrestling, the whole block watched wrestling. She'd be screaming like "Rip his head off" and all that. So I was a little kid, a baby, getting put in front of the TV watching like Raw with my older brothers and my nana every Monday. So that's just what I started, and then I end up falling in love with wrestling because like I said, the storytelling, the drama, like they were fighting, but they were doing all these cool moves, and there was titles, and it was just so above, you know what I mean? Like just so larger than life. I've never seen anything like it. Like even in regular sports, like, and I played a bunch of sports when I was a kid. So I started watching it. I'd watch like old TNA, old WWE. Like I remember my brother had a sock monkey. I'd be throwing around, wrestling with it, legit having like full 15-minute matches when I was like 5 years old, dog, with a sock monkey in my fucking bed. But yeah, I remember I just middle school. There wasn't a lot of people that liked wrestling, so I kind of like fell off of watching it, but I still really liked it. And then I found my friend Eddie, who was like that other kid that really liked wrestling as much as I did. And he had the video games and he watched all the pay-per-views. So it kind of just, me and him kind of like became best friends. I fell in love with wrestling again. And then, yeah, and then I went in a backyard company for a little bit for like a year. And then I was like, if I'm going to do this, I want to get trained. I want to be safe. And I actually want to do this. You know what I mean? And put
So,
down the
what was
money and I
that
started
like?
school.
So,
What?
yes, let's talk about that because you're obviously in love with wrestling and you want to do this, and obviously it's a calling. I think it is a nice way to put it, and it's the best way to put it. And so, how did you even go about finding a school to train at? Because that's super important, and you're still new in the industry, and you're young. You're 22, and I don't think you mind me saying that. A lot of people don't understand that you do need to be trained, not
Yeah.
just for yourself, but for the people who you're in the ring with.
Just safety. You can die in the ring. People have died in the ring, and it's not safe to not be trained. Like when I did backyard, it wasn't like backyard where we ran shows and we try to take money from wrestlers and we try to get on wrestle like train shows. No, we were just like kids that we all knew from like the area. Everybody went to like high schools and was all friends with each other. And we were in my boy Daquan's backyard in Dorchester with his old grandma being like, "Don't kill Spider-Man," because my boy used to wear a mask and all that. Like it was teenagers being teenagers. So like, and then after a while, I was just kind of like, I want to do this. I want to get trained, and I just looked up. I just looked up wrestling schools nearby, and two places that came up was New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which was Killer Kowalski School, and then you had the Bell Time Club. And I was telling my mom about this, and she's like, "Oh, she's like, my friend that I went to high school named Pat Dillon is actually a wrestler. He actually trained." And I'm like, "Oh, really?" And he was like, "I think he's actually like he helps out with a school, or he's involved with a school, or he goes and he knows people." I'm like, "All right." So I went, hit him up, and then I talked about time, and then I showed up and signed up.
Yeah,
So it's
let's talk about bell time because obviously you're trained, and I might get one of these names wrong, but Bew Douglas and Benny Jux.
Bo Douglas. Yeah, Bo Douglas and Benny Jux.
And
Or
so,
Toto Loco, for some people that don't know.
yeah, so what was that entire training like? Because obviously you're coming in, you're relatively young, and there's a physical side to training, there's the mental side to training, and obviously you were watching wrestling, so you sort of had an idea of holds, but you didn't know everything, I think it's safe to say. And also, it's very different when you're actually doing it versus seeing it. And there
Yeah,
is a
like
difference between doing it well and not doing it well. And I've seen bad wrestling, and you've seen bad wrestling, and really good wrestling at the
yeah.
same time. And so, what was that entire experience like on the physical side?
I mean, I did football, I did karate, I did baseball. I basically did any sport I did soccer, any sport I can get my hands on, rugby. So I wasn't really, and none of that. I had two older brothers that were gigantic and a younger little brother. So there was fights going on all the time. So I wasn't really worried about the physical aspect of it. You know what I mean? It's just like when I started out for wrestling, I was in track. I actually remember because one of my first classes was right after the city championship, and I just came in with gold, and it's just like bell time's just very like Bo is he's trained by Killer Kowalski, right? So he has a yo, what's good, Justin? So he has a an old school way of looking at things, and he wants to train people the old school and A, B, C, D in the right way. And Benny does too. And Benny was trained by Tony Roy, and he was trained by Tony Roy, and he, Tony Roy lineage of Kowalski too. And Benny just, he showed me all the tricks and the trades and the flavors of ice cream and the splashes and the moves. And, Bo just, it was definitely like a good mix training there. I mean, for me, because it's not for everybody. Like I said, everybody has their own wrestling school that they feel more comfortable wrestling at. When I was at Bell Time, I felt comfortable because I already grew up in a family of 7. So when you have like so many different people, coming out with different perspectives, I was just kind of able to kind of pick up from everybody. You feel me?
Yeah, no, I completely get it. In which that, I've been through a dojo. I used to do a lot of martial arts, and I know exactly that mentality and that family mentality and the idea of almost you're a unit type of idea. And so I completely understand that. And then the other part that I'm curious about, because I think this is something that people forget, is the mental side of wrestling, because it is a mental game just as much as it is a physical game. And if you're not mentally prepared on, toughing it out and understanding, being on the road, and obviously we're going to talk about Limitless, the road, hence I dropped that in there. I've been planning for this one for a while, but even going beyond that, it is mentally tough, this entire industry. And then not to mention the selling and interacting with crowds. And look, if you're a person who you have to play a bad guy and you don't take booing very well, maybe, it's going to be difficult because it can get to you when everybody says, I hate you.
Yeah. And like, I mean, you're totally right. Like this business is very like mentally like weighing, because it's like you go into it as a fan thinking that it's going to be all like, daisies and sunflowers and shit. And then you start like pulling back the curtain and seeing all like kind of like the politics that happen, or what you actually have to do to get booked, and the way, you know what I mean? Like my trainer, Benny, when he first ever took me on the road, he took me to North Carolina. It was Pennsylvania the first day and then North Carolina the second day. It was a weekend trip with Big Time Wrestling. And he told me, he was like, this trip is going to make you either want to love and do this for the rest of your life and love wrestling, or it's going to make you want to quit. Because when you're on the road, 7-hour drive, you know what I mean? You're just like, what do I do? Because you're just sitting there with, with a car full of guys. And other than them, that's just, you know what I mean? Like, obviously technology now helps it, but it's just a lot. Like, and it takes a lot. Like, it takes a strong human being, especially like you said, dealing with the crowd. If you're a bad guy, them coming at you, and you know what I mean. Just it's very mentally like stressful. But if you weigh it out and you push through it, it's worth it.
So to even talk about that, because that's a very different aspect. And obviously, I've done a lot of wrestlers. I think I've done about 100 now in the last 6 years. And this is the first time somebody's ever said, hey, my trainer took me on the road with me. And I think it's so interesting because it is training in many ways to actually see sort of the inner workings of the business and go on that road trip. because I think that's something that people forget, that, if you live in Boston and you get booked for a show in DC, the Bow Wash journey isn't a fun journey. It's a long journey to go from Boston to Washington, and then you have to remember you got to drive back home.
Yeah, you got 2 long drives. So you better make sure you get your snacks, your movies, your stories, whatever you want to bring on you, your books. It's just crazy. Like I said, like, people don't know, but when wrestling was like, when it first started, the way to get trained was to go on the road and help set up rings. And then before the events would start, they would be like, all right, since you help set up the ring, let me show you a little bit. And then you would get, the greenies would get the time in the ring before the show. So like him doing that kind of just was like, wow, because I wasn't that far along. I mean, I was probably like 7 months when he first took me on my first big time trip. And it's kind of weird because I went like for a full year doing those weekend trips every weekend or every other weekend with Big Time and my trainer Benny, and Channing Thomas was one of them. And it's just weird because like a lot of people right now don't really know me because I went on those trips. And that's because I was traveling so much that I only really worked one place up in New England. And then when the trips started to slow down a little bit and I started like getting, not getting more bookings, but actually like getting bookings other than Big Time and going on trips, that's when I started getting out there and like Limitless. Because I did a main fair show, and that's when like Danger Kid and like Alexander Lee seen me and was like, hey, we got Let's Wrestle. And we could see if we can get you in there. You know what I mean? It's just those road trips helped me out. Like, I'm not discrediting Big Time at all. I'm glad I did those year-long road trips every weekend because I feel like it definitely showed me the other side of wrestling and what I would have to do, like what I would have to do the next step. You know what I mean? Because I was a greenie doing this, but it's like basically like the next step. Because after you get in your area and you get to a certain point, the only real way to train and to get better is by going on the road and facing other people with other styles and the way they do things, so you can, you know what I mean, just progress as a wrestler. So I'm happy.
I don't know if you know the story about Kurt Stallion. So no, Kurt, the way he got really good is that he basically took every booking, whether it was like a 12, 14-hour drive, said, sure, and I'm going to lose money on it, but I want to, get better and I want to be in a promotion. So Kurt was a Midwest guy, and he might have had a booking, in GCW in Jersey. That's a long fucking drive.
No, I know.
And maybe he would combine it where it would be one of those circumstances where he would do a show midway and then he'd do another show. So it wasn't like, but still, you're driving from middle America, more or less, to the East Coast. It's a long drive. And, maybe he had a driving buddy or whatnot, but he would not make any money on it. But all of a sudden, what would happen is that he would be everywhere.
Yeah.
And he doesn't like publicly speak about it. And somebody else told me this story, and I'm not going to say who, but that's one of the reasons how he got really good. And then now, obviously, he's in WWE for a reason. And he's part of it.
He went on the road and he faced other people. And like that's why Kurt Stallion's where he is. And like he blew up. Like I remember one day I just started looking at my Twitter and my Instagram, and it was like Kurt Stallion, Kurt Stallion, Kurt Stallion, Kurt Stallion. And I was looking, I was like, wow, me and Kurt Stallion like aren't far off body size. And I just seen how good he was and the way he moved and like just everything he does. Like he's really good. And like I said, that's from going on the road and facing other people. Because those trips, you got to do them, bro.
And also, it's even further for any young wrestler listening out there, and I'm sure you can back me up on this. It's also, you got to be in front of other promoters too. Hate to say this, and it's a little complicated, but, sometimes certain people appear at certain shows, and WWE is on the East Coast. Their headquarters is in Stamford, Connecticut. So, you know what it is? I'm not saying they completely, just only look in Connecticut, but if you're at a bunch of shows on IWTV, and it would be really disturbing if WWE did not watch IWTV. I'm more than certain they do because they have to. They have to.
They probably have a couple people that pay attention to that, obviously.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
because
Because they have to have their eyes on everything, dog.
But my point is that if you're not on those shows, everybody, and you're only in, New England, there's only so much attention that can be driven out of that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you need to go out. You need to go out and show that like your stock is rising, that you're up. You know what I mean? Like, and you have to do those trips where you don't make money because like those big time trips. I'm not saying anything. It's not nothing bad, but I didn't get paid going out there to do tables and all that and paying my dues. But I was paying my dues, and at the end of the day, I'm a better wrestler and a better just a better wrestler for it. You know what I mean? Because I went out and I paid my dues, and like you said, just you got to do that. You got to do those trips to get known, and because WWE is going to be looking everywhere. They look at everything, even though they may not think or people may not think they are. They're looking there. You know what I mean? That's why they do all these copyright things and all that things happen. Like,
And I would say AEW is also looking at everything. Look at AEW Dark. AEW Dark pulls right directly out of the indies, and it's no joke.
yeah,
I would say 25% of AEW's roster right now is out of the indies.
like MJF, great. I remember when AEW just started, they were pulling all the top people: Silver, Reynolds, MJF, Jungle Boy, Luchasaur, everybody got like bang, 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 private party, bang, 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 and I was just like, wow, like this is gonna be some good wrestling. You know what I mean?
And look at what they've done with AEW Dark and those contracts. That's a very interesting thing for those who don't know. And this is what it was rumored to be, is that they sign people to what are known as giving them 5 matches, and then they get first exclusivity if they want to offer them a contract, supposedly, which is awesome if you think about it, where they're basically saying, we're going to test you out and we're going to guarantee you dates, but we want the option to essentially offer you a contract.
Yeah, I mean, no, because there's levels to it. I think Cody Rhodes talked about it.
So
I don't think it's a rumor.
Real.
It's a real thing.
Anymore.
They'll have like a guy and they'll be like, all right, we're interested in you. We want to see how it is. And they'll sign them to like, if you're like tier 0, I think, and you get a certain amount of money and you work a certain amount of dates. And after that amount of dates, if they like you, then they'll, you know what I mean? They'll sign you to a new contract or bump you up a tier, I believe it is, or something like that.
And that's why you get people like Lindsay Snow wrestling on AEW Dark, and she's killing it.
Nick Casey Navarro's on AEW Dark.
So it's crazy, and it's good for wrestling because I think it increases everybody's stock by nature.
Oh yeah.
And it also gives everybody an opportunity. But enough about that, because I want to talk about you, because your first year or 2 years in wrestling was somewhat crazy, and you and your trainer basically pretty much went at it. Benny Jocks went at it everywhere for the most part. And so like you guys exchanged victories, and I think like you had like 6 or 7 matches minimum with each other. So what was that like, having all those matches? There was a story in there. It was very much, the master has appeared when the student is ready, vibe to it. I went and did my homework on a lot of this stuff, and I
wasn't expecting you to pull up me versus Benny. That's awesome. One day, Benny was like, because I wrestled in a Royal Rumble, and I was like, let me get the singles match, and Bo was like, no, and I don't think they were gonna do it, and then Benny kind of was like, let me get a singles match with them, come on. So they were like, all right, we'll do it. And then for some reason, Benny was like, we should do it before the main. Let's do it before the main. And so we ended up doing it like right before the main, our match. And I'm green as shit. This is my first ever match, like singles match on a show. And it was all right. I mean, I messed up, dog. Like everybody does. And you know what I mean? And then
let's talk about that then. Because I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but obviously you're nervous. It's your first match out there. You're still new. And obviously you're in there with a veteran. And so you stumble. And what is that like? Because that's a very interesting learning experience. Because a lot of people sometimes they're like, I know that I had Devontae's on. He was talking about his first match where he was forced to call the entire match as part of his training, his first match. And obviously, that's one way how to train somebody. Another is that they take two new students and let them just go at it, and then whatever happens, happens. And then the third way is they put a new student with a veteran, and then sort of, I guess, the veteran is supposed to guide the new student with calling. And so, obviously, if what you just described happens, the veteran, Benny, was supposed to catch you, essentially.
Benny did catch me. Benny, the thing is, Benny, Benny, when he wrestles, especially, like, Benny can have a great match, 5-star match with anybody on the indies. If you could be lime green, you could be shit green, you can even be a person that's 80 years old and has been wrestling for years. Benny will pull out a WrestleMania match with you because Benny is the type to make sure that everything makes sense, everything in the story makes sense, and he's not going to just go there and let you flop on your face and then make it, because he's old school. Like, he's got new school moves and everything, but an old school mindset. So his things, like, if it's going to ruin the match, make us look fake, and basically just fake. You know what I mean? Like, if I let you flop on your face and then you get up and you drop kick me, that's fake. You know what I mean? So Benny will sit there and he'll actually be the veteran and he'll guide you through the match. He'll pull it out of you, but he will guide you and be like, all right, come on. All right, come on. All right, you got this. Come on. You know what I mean? He's not, because there are people that go out there and they're veterans, and then they'll face somebody who's green, and then they'll call stuff that that they really don't know or they really never done. And the greenie just being green, like, yeah, let's do it. And then it becomes a shit show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was nervous, but I had a great guide and a great trainer that was there and able to beat the crap out of me and show me the way. You know what I mean?
And also, it was helpful the fact that the two of you went at it over the course of a bunch of matches, because obviously that gave you time to sort of build up your confidence and also get accustomed to the ring and also get up and start climbing up that ladder of getting up to his level in many ways, especially early on, because it's super important early on not to destroy somebody's confidence on their first match.
Yeah, and Benny, like I said, Benny was really good, and it wasn't like we were going out there to have multiple matches with each other. You know what I mean? They'd be like, we're gonna go to this promotion, have this match. We're gonna go to this. It kind of just happened because after the first match with me and Benny, we had a second match, and then a promotion wanted to use me, so I was starting to get used by them, and then Benny gave me a ride one day because I didn't have a permit or a license, and they were just like, hey, you want to wrestle a student? And then there was another time on a show that they were switching around the card, and they were just like, what would be a good match? And Bo was just like, Benny versus Alec. So, I mean, it was definitely good for me and Benny to have that. But then after a while, Benny was like, all right, you can have a good match with me, but let's see if you can have a good match with somebody else. Because not everybody's me. You know what I mean? And that's not disrespecting saying that everybody's not as good as Benny. I'm just, not everybody's Benny. He does certain things a certain way, and the way he moves is, you know what I mean? So, I mean, he was right. So, I mean, me and Benny's matches, I proved to everybody in the locker room that I can go a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. And we're going to talk about some of this stuff. So I want to jump to Showcase Pro Wrestling. And I want to talk about the Liberty title scene, because that was crazy with you. You've had wars with people in this promotion. And I think the person to bring up is Scott Lee Durr. I think I said that right.
I think, yeah, Scott Lee Durr.
And the two of you just went at each other over this title, and it was a build-up, and eventually you won the title. And obviously, what was this like? Because these matches were somewhat intense.
They were good. I faced Scott a lot. And the thing is, when I finally got the title, I didn't win the title off of him. I won it off of Chris Candido. And I mean, it was just when I went to Showcase, the first thing that really kind of got big was me versus Amanda Fox. for our rivalries, I was like a greenie getting like 7K views, and I was like,
Because you and Amanda went at it in a variety of matches.
yeah, we had like three or
There
four.
was some good tag team stuff in there too.
Yeah, but yeah, me and Ladera just kind of went at it because they just kept throwing us together, and I mean, I wanted the belt regardless, so I had no problem, you know what I mean, fighting for it. And then I mean, when I won it, it was cool because I mean, like my trainer always said, like belts really don't mean anything, but when you work or when you wrestle and you're new and you look at it and you're like, wow, like I just like, you know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah. So
confirmation that your work is actually paying off.
this is a question because obviously people say, "Oh, belt don't mean anything," and good wrestlers get noticed, belt or no belt. But at the same time, a belt is also a symbol. It also
Yeah.
says something to the crowd. It also is legit. It's kind of like, we see promotions that don't have belts. It's really hard for a promotion to get over without a belt and without a title or without something that signifies that. It's this like a tournament, for instance. You need a trophy, just
Yeah.
by nature, because when you win it, that trophy says, "I'm the best." I don't know if you were watching the Super 8, but when a very good professional wrestler hold that trophy up, I now believe he's a very good professional wrestler. And I like him, but that him winning the tournament, and if there was no trophy there, it wouldn't have meant as much. And so I think you getting the belt sort of said, "Hey, I'm here to stay, and I'm the real deal." Like that's how I viewed it. And I
I
think
totally agree.
so. Yeah. So how did it make you feel though? Because obviously it's
No,
more
I
weight.
was happy. I mean, it was my first time ever winning a belt. Like I was just kind of just like, this is crazy. I can't believe I actually have like a championship. Like, and I was able to post it because I was just looking at myself. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna get a championship for a while. You know what I mean? You never know. But I ended up winning one, and I was like, yo, bro, I got a title, doggy. Like to everybody, I got a chance to, you know what I mean? Just floss it off a little bit.
Yeah, you had some title defenses too. Dynamite, Toto Loco, Carlos Esteban, and I think that was a pretty intense match too. And so obviously you got to defend this a little bit as well, which is cool. And given that you were so new, and this was like 18 months in, I want to say.
Yeah, somewhat like around there. Yeah, this was when I won I ended up winning the belt within like a year of being at Showcase. So it was like I was on the road, then it was a Showcase. So yeah, about like 18 months, kind of somewhere around that guesstimation. But
And then obviously, I mean, what is that like to defend? Because I think people don't understand that winning it is one thing, and then defending is another. And there is a different psychology that goes into defending a belt. There are championship advantages to defending titles, and you sometimes play a bad guy, and you sometimes use those advantages. And look, who cares how you retain, right?
yeah, I mean, as long as I got the belt, I mean, like you said, the psychology is different between getting a belt and defending a belt. But because when you defend that belt, you don't want to lose it, and you got everybody in the locker room trying to get that belt off you. So now you just got a target on your back, and you're just like, if I gotta use a couple underhanded tactics, like 10 count or throw him out, because if I get counted out, he can't win the belt. Like you know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do.
And then obviously you dropped this belt, but then fast forward, you sort of started coming into Limitless a little bit towards the end, I think, of 2018 or middle of 2018, and you had some dark matches. And obviously CJ Cruz was one and JD Drake was another. And obviously JD Drake is sort of a well-known name. CJ Cruz is well-known. And so what is the story of how you came into Limitless? Because that's kind of I want to talk about all that because I think that's where you've really shined is Limitless and beyond in the last 2 years. And I think that's where you've gotten really noticed. And that's partially because of IWTV and those companies very much are, I think, now getting a lot of the attention they deserve. It took a while for Beyond. It took about 10 years. And I think Limitless is going to do it quicker. at this point, but it's starting to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I went to a fair show in Maine. I wrestled somebody that came by the Belltime Club. His name was Big Bear Machooch, and we had a match. And Alexander Lee came up and was like, "Hey, we have a company called Let's Wrestle, and Let's Wrestle is basically the sister company to Limitless, and it basically is for like the local people to, get their stuff in and basically get to, you know what I mean, the Limitless. So it allows the locals to come in, have a promotion, do what you got to do, get better, and then eventually, if you earn it, you'll be on Limitless. And there's been mad people that have gotten on Limitless from Let's Wrestle, and Danger Kid. I end up having a tag match against MSP, and then I end up hitting him up, and I got into the Rumble. And to be honest, I know Randy and them probably didn't think, and he said it, they didn't think anything of me until at first, but I came, I started helping out, and I proved to them that I wanted to be there. That's what I just a lot of people like just kind of show up and it's like I'm here, treat me a certain way. It's like you kind of got to like earn that respect with everybody.
So you're the third person in the last week that's actually said that. Bro Keller said it, where Bro Keller said it on this show that I don't care if I'm a dark match guy. Doesn't matter to me, even though I'm a champion over in this promotion. Doesn't matter to me. Jesse Nolan was on last night, and she was basically sort of saying the same thing. And she was saying that COVID has proven saying who wants it the most right now in all of this wrestling thing. And so that's kind of what's coming out. And then you sort of just said something very similar. And so I think Randy values that tremendously. Obviously, Bro Keller is not in Limitless Wrestling. He is more in Pennsylvania and the DMV area. But I think it remains true right now with Randy at the very least, because Jesse was talking about it and you sort of said it. I think that kind of sums up what Randy values, where it's who's going to help break down the ring, who's going to be a team player, who's going to be there that all of a sudden somebody gets injured at something and then, you're there and you're stepping up type of thing.
Yeah, like he doesn't even just like it's just you just gotta earn it. You gotta earn your respect. You gotta earn your spot. And he definitely looks at people that are trying to be there and they want to earn it. Like Randy can tell when, or any promoter can tell when somebody wants it. Any wrestler can tell when somebody else wants it and they want to be there. And the reason why they're there is to make it, or the reason why they're there is to be there, and not just to try to get on the show and use the name. You know what I mean? And Randy gave me the opportunity with Let's Wrestle. Me and CJ end up having a big rivalry in Let's Wrestle that end up letting us get a dark match on Fresh Blood. Got to throw us in the fire with the the pre-show match, and me and CJ freaking went out there and killed it. Probably, in my opinion, our best match out of all the matches that we've had.
So let me ask a question. So obviously you have this rivalry. You get on the pre-show. It's a dark match. And then it's your objective to say, hey, I'm on this dark match and that I want to have the best match on the card now. Because that would be my objective, is to say, hey, I want to kill it and I want to show why I belong here. And I want to show that I'm this good and me and CJ are deserving to be on the main roster, and we're going to earn it versus being given to us.
That the thing is, like, when you go out there and you work a pre-show match or you work a match before someone else's, you go out there to have the best match you can and have a banger but it's in like, you can have the best match you can in the spot that you're in. So me and CJ, like, when I go out there to wrestle, I don't go out there to wrestle and be like, I'm going to have the best match on the card. It's going to have the most this, most that. No one else is going to top me. You know what I mean? No, if I'm first, I'm going out there to be like, all right, I'm going to have a good first match. I'm going to get the crowd hot. Everybody's going to be excited. The blood's going to be pumping. And I'm going to make every other match behind me work a little bit harder than the match before them and make it better. Like, I don't go out there to outdo people. I go out there to make other people do harder. If I'm not in the main, I'm trying to make the main go ham. You know what I mean? And that's what me and CJ did. We went out there and we had a match. Like I came back and other people were like, "Well, how are we gonna follow that?" I'm like, "You can follow that. Just you know what I mean? We didn't do that. You know what I mean? We had a 5 minute match. We went out there and we made our statement, and we also just kind of like, all right, guys, we're nobodies, so let's see what you guys
So,
do.
having said all that, do you think it's super important to know your place on the card? Because I was speaking with ZPB, and he was talking about that, where it's really important to know your place, and it's not an ego thing. It's knowing where you belong on the card. If you're in a tag match, you should know that you're a tag team wrestler. If you're, match 3 on a 5-match card, obviously you're in a position where, I don't know exactly how to say this the most political way, but you got to keep the momentum of the show going forward and raise the bar a little bit versus just dropping it down. But then also, we look at WWE and ultimately we know when there's cooler matches and hot matches and, they're purposely trying to control the flow of the show also. And there's plenty of that too. I watch Camp Leapfrog. Blank versus, Darius Carter was meant to do something that it accomplished very well. And it was meant to do what it did. And it was brilliant what they did with it. And it was a fun, exciting match that was momentum forward, but also helped to hype up the main event and give a little breathing space for everybody who was watching it to say, okay, we could take a little bit of notch down of like super excitement off of a really hot match.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's so important. Like ZPD said, it's so important for someone to just know their place on the card, because like at the end of the day, if the second match is having main event matches where they're doing 50 double downs and all these false finishes and it's just what are the other matches going to do? The fans have just been brought up to here for about 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you know what I mean, or however long the match went, and then you got to expect everybody to go from here to here. You know what I mean? Like it's just that's not what a story is. Like you don't go into a story and you don't want to be on the edge of your seat the whole time. Just like no, you want to sit there. You want to be able to cry. You want to be able to laugh. You want to be able to be on the edge of your seat, but then be able to relax a little bit and you know what I mean. Just simmer down. Like that's what telling a story is and running a show. Like I don't know nothing about running a show at all, but just from like match order and what I've experienced, it's just like doing a match. You know what I mean? At the beginning of your match, you want it to be kind of like pop, 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 then settle down, and then high impact and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just the same with running a show, and it's just knowing your place on the card. Because if you're right after intermission, you got to be super hot to get the crowd back into it. You know what I mean? If you're the first match, you have to get the crowd super hot just for the other matches to have that energy going out there. You know what I mean? Like everybody has an important place, and you know what I mean? That's just it.
Yeah, and now I want to take a slight detour from Limitless, and we're going to circle right back. But we do need to talk about Beyond because you did get into Beyond, and you got in a cool way, and what I think is the best way to get you into Beyond, and it disqualifies you from the Discovery Gauntlet, though. And that's because you got in with the Pride of New England tournament for tomorrow in the first round. And you got to face Josh Briggs. And Josh Briggs is a very scary man. It's a very scary man. He might be a nice guy outside of the ring, but he is not a nice man in the ring.
No.
And he's good. He's obviously in WWE. He obviously was an Evolve champion and all that stuff. So what was that matchup like for you? Because you're in Beyond. This tournament is highlighting the best of New England in many ways. And now you have Josh Briggs, who's very accomplished in New England and accomplished
and the Evolve champion at the time.
And he's accomplished worldwide in many ways. So what were you thinking, and what the hell?
Bro, it was otherworldly. I mean, I was going to uncharted territory every week, and I was helping out with the ring, just like I did with Limitless. When I first got onto Limitless and started going ham, I was at Limitless, and then I started going with the cameraman at the time, Paul, to start helping out, and
And uncharted territory is a really cool concept to help out on. Just by itself and just the insight, the fact that it was IWTV, real money was behind it. They put a lot of cool stuff. It was half of the time it was in a
No, production was great. The production quality for Uncharted Territory was awesome.
And they brought in some seriously cool people. And obviously, I mean, you're also in pretty much getting to see a really cool wrestling show as like the consolation prize, essentially.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly, but continue. Sorry for interrupting. I need to give everybody the understanding.
No, it's no, yeah. Uncharted Territory. There's a lot of things that go into it, and it's very high quality production.
There's real money behind it.
It's not just like bullshit. Like they actually spent a lot of money to get like the banners and everything like that they put into that. Like there's real money into that. And the thing is, like, when I went there, I started helping out, and then Drew came to a limitless show and seen me and CJ in the pre-show. And then after that, he was like, "I'll maybe do you versus CJ," and then me and CJ had a dark match or a spotlight match on Uncharted Territory, which I appreciate that because it really kind of got me a little bit of a name out there. And then then Drew hit me up about doing wrestling Josh. And the thing about wrestling Josh was like the first ever show I went to independently as a green wrestler was at UFO, and Josh Briggs was there. And I always looked at him like, bro, he's huge. Like I want to wrestle him. Like I always want to wrestle him. And it was just crazy because like my trainer, when Josh first started training, my trainer Benny actually originally helped train him with Hollow. So it kind of like before he went to Nepwa, obviously, and Nepwa turned him into Josh Briggs. But it was just kind of full circle to have that. Like Benny had his first match. Josh Briggs had his first match with Benny. I had my first match with Benny, and now Josh Briggs is basically being like Benny in the match. But it was crazy. Like I loved wrestling Josh. I loved wrestling Josh, bro. It was awesome. Like it was just,
Yeah, and even to add more to this, obviously you're on Uncharted Territory. Uncharted Territory did really well with ratings. A lot of people loved it. It was needed extensively at the time. It was actually probably needed about 3 years before all this in many ways. And then obviously a lot of people are watching it. It's a lot of good wrestling. There's a lot of good wrestling on this card. This entire show and every Uncharted Territory has been good for the most part. And so now you beat Josh Briggs. You're on Uncharted Territory. You're etching your name somewhat in IWTV. And like, what's going through your head? Because you're sort of getting a lot of attention that I don't think that anybody can be ready for, especially given how new you were.
I mean, yeah, it was like I said, it was crazy. It was intense. Like with my first Limitless show, I was shaking in my boots because with those it's higher tier wrestling. It's not shindy wrestling. It's a whole nother level. And like with Beyond, it's a whole nother level. It's a whole nother tier of wrestling. When you go out there, the fans are there. The fans and just the way they react to you, because they have the power to make you a baby if they like you.
Those Beyond shows were live, from my understanding.
Yeah, they were live too.
And what's crazy is that I don't know, was this on a Wednesday or was this on the Thursday? Because they were originally on a Wednesday and then they moved to a Thursday. But the reason why I bring this up and why this is relevant is that people will come out to wrestling on like a Saturday show. They'll come out on a Friday show. They'll come out on a Sunday show. But they'll come out in the middle of the week, to come out on bar night on Thursday to go see wrestling, or to come out on a Wednesday. Like, who the hell comes out on a Wednesday to go see wrestling? Well, obviously people who like Beyond.
Beyond's got a loyal fan base, and their fans are just like nowhere else. And they'll go. If you put a show, if Drew's like, we got a show here at this time, they will go. They will pick up all this stuff, go halfway across this country just to go there because they know it's going to be worth it. Like the show quality is going to be worth it. The matches are going to be worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so my question is that, like, that's what I'm trying to get across to everybody who's listening and seeing this, is that this isn't bullshit wrestling. This isn't just some, up and coming promotion. This is like the real deal. This is the major league. Beyond is either the first or super close second biggest indie promotion in the United States, if not the world, in many ways. There's a debate on GCW and Beyond, where who's bigger, and obviously both of them are huge.
Yeah, both of them are huge.
And when you get to wrestle either one of them or both of them, it's a big deal. And so obviously you're lucky that you're in the New England area to be able to get that. But now you beat Josh Briggs, and now you advance to the finals or the semifinals, and you have to face Christian Casanova, who's a regular at Beyond, who was on a decent hot string. I don't know if he was still with Cam Zagami at that time.
No, he was rivaling. Because the first match, Kendo came out and like jumped Robo, and then he was having a problem with them or something like that, I believe.
And so now Christian Casanova is breaking out too at this point and starting to get noticed. And then the two of you are going at it, and obviously you have similar styles but very different styles. And what was that like? Because obviously Christian Casanova, I think, was starting to turn face. I don't know where you were at this point, but obviously
you
were what?
I was a heel, dog.
But both of you are clearly drawing what you need to draw at this point, and you're both killing it in this match, and an amazing match. So what was that entire thing like?
It was fun because me and Christian just kind of gelled together. Like, we have really good chemistry with each other. So just me and him were kind of just able to kind of have fun and go out there and have a dope match. You know what I mean? And just kind of like just kind of throw it out the wall. But we were like, it wasn't like, because when you face somebody for the first time, obviously it's kind of like you're trying to figure out what they do, what's the little movements they do and the way they do things. And then when you face them a second time, you're like, all right, I got it. But with Christian, it wasn't even like that. It was kind of just like, all right, I already know what you're doing. All right, you already know what I'm doing. All right, let's have a bang and let's have fun. And it was fun because I feel like definitely those two matches at Beyond helped me prove myself a little bit to people in the indies, because like I said, no one really seen me unless they were watching Limitless up until that point. You know what I mean? Unless you were watching Limitless, you didn't really see me. And at that point, I only had a couple matches at Limitless. You know what I mean?
I think that it's safe to say that Beyond was the breaking out point for you in many ways for a variety of reasons. The two matches, obviously, you're facing Josh Briggs. When you beat a regular in Beyond, who's the Evolved champ, who legitimately carries a lot of clout.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
It helps to promote you, because then people say, okay, what just happened? And okay, who is this Alec, Price kid?
Yeah,
and what is he doing? Who is he? I've never heard of him before. Let me go check out what he is on Cage Match. And then you have this second great match with Christian Casanova, and obviously the two of you tore it down. And meanwhile, Beyond is getting big numbers. Uncharted territory is brand new. The production value is amazing. And obviously people now can go back and watch it more or less on their own time also after all that stuff. And so obviously those views are much higher than when it was live. And a lot more people have seen it, and they could actually say, okay, I know who this is now. And that's a big deal, because now you have a hell of a lot more eyes on you. And so that's why I think that this was kind of the breaking out moment for you. Even though Casanova beat you, in many ways that was saying, oh, shoot, this kid can hang.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
It's super important, and it's kind of weird because before air we were sort of talking about spotlighting and getting attention, and this was the start of that, and then this kind of led to Limitless 2020 in many ways, which I think has solidified your breakout year. And so just to drop some names super quickly, I think you had a match with Danhausen.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun one, and not Donovan. Was he Donovan at this point, or was he the actual Tequila?
He was Danhausen.
So, did you experience Tequila?
Yeah, I did Tequila. I actually was like, no, you're not doing it, and I did my own little version of it. And then he knocked me off the ring because no one else does that but Danhausen. So then Danhausen did his Tequila and kicked me in the face a couple times. You know what I mean? It was fun.
And that's very much an honor. experienced the Dan Housing tequila, and Dan Housing is a unique specimen, much like Warhorse, but that's a different discussion for a different day. And Dan Housing and Warhorse are like the two greatest things in wrestling beyond Nick Cage.
You know what's crazy is not a lot of people know, like, Danhausen can go if he just has somebody that he's having fun with. He can have a good match with him. Like, me and him had a great match. Like, in my opinion, me and him had a good match.
Yeah, Dan Housing is a real wrestler. He's really good, and he's so good, and what he's accomplished before he was Dan Housing, what was amazing, and Dan Housing is just like even better. It's like it's Dan Housing 2.0 is phenomenal. And then also another one to talk about is Jake Something. Jake Something is the BLP champion. Screwed Calvin Tinkerman, I think, is out of that championship. Obviously, Jake Something is an Impact. So that's a cool one. And I think Jake Something at this point was also an Impact. And
yeah,
so
no, he was an Impact at this point.
And so obviously you're getting an Impact star to deal with and have and get, somebody on the big time to wrestle. What was that like? Because obviously Danhausen is big too, but it's kind of cool when somebody from I don't know what we call Impact anymore and how it ranks, but obviously it's a television promotion.
Yeah, I mean it's they sign people, so it's TV. I mean, yeah, it's TV. If they sign you to a contract, it's still TV.
So like, what was that like to have that match?
It was fire. I mean, me and Jake, like I said,
Jake's a big guy too.
He's a big dude. I like wrestling people like because I don't like when I wrestle, I'm gonna hit you, so I like to be hit back. So with having like Jake who could toss me around, I can do all my cool moves and all that. Like I had no problem. Plus, he's awesome. I love Jake Something. Me and him, that's my dude. That's my gang. So like me and him kind of just like I said, just gelled, and we went out there and had a banger. And like during the match, I remember we were calling a spot. He was like, "Well, how about I come to get you, and you push me off and flip me off?" And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "All right." I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that. I'll flip you off." And he was like, "And then I want you to spit on me." And I went, "Are you sure?" I was like, I'm not suggesting this. So I was like, maybe we said. He was like, "Yeah, let's ask Randy." And then Randy was like, as long as he was like, "No, I'm cool with it." And I'm like, "Are you sure? Like, I'll spit on you if you want me to, but I'm just putting it out in the universe that I did not suggest this." But it worked, and me and him had bangers. JD Drake, me and him had a killer match.
So I want to talk about that Jake Something thing because I think this is super important that a lot of people forget, especially when you're new at anything. You have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And I think a lot of people sometimes forget that, when you're new, you should shut the fuck up sometimes. Like Jake Something obviously made a recommendation to you. And you just said, "Hey, I'll do it, and I'm okay doing it, but I just want to let you know that I didn't suggest it." But obviously, Jake Something must have had something in his head how to produce it and how to put it out there that would make it have a certain reaction. And obviously, I think that's how it went, and it was a great match.
Well, at the end of the day, it made sense with the story that me and him were telling. And I mean, I wasn't also kind of just like it wasn't like a shut the fuck up, just kind of let him like it makes. So I was just kind of like, I'm down. Because, like, me and him kind of both looked at it, and he was just like, it makes sense for the story. And I was like...
You were receptive to the idea, I think is a good way to put it. You
have to be.
Yeah, and I think that's something that sometimes people don't understand in wrestling is that if you're working with somebody else and they have 10 years in the business on you, they might have an idea, and you have to be receptive in many ways because it takes two to tango.
Yeah, he's on TV. I'm not. There's a reason why he signed on TV and doing the things he's doing. And I'm not saying like I'm not good enough to be on TV, but he's on TV and he's doing the type of wrestling that I want to be on, which is a whole different level. So if he's saying, "Hey, if you spit on me, it makes sense," then shit. I mean, look at it. It makes sense, and it made sense. So I was like, "Fuck it. All right. I'm just letting you know." I didn't suggest it, but I have no problem spitting on you if you want me to, dog. It's just, you know what I mean? Sometimes people are weird because like you got to shave your armpits or put on deodorant because you don't want to put somebody in a headlock and they're smelling like, you know what I mean, some BO. Like, just it's very like and that was before the pandemic. So if it was like pandemic era, that spot would have never happened. You know what I mean? That would have never happened. Spit on me. You sure, bro? I don't have COVID. No, you got tested, right? Yeah. He's like, all right, spit on me. You know what I mean? Like it would have never happened. So I'm glad it got that.
So obviously, I think this benefited you. It benefited him. I'm sure the crowd had a reaction. Obviously you flicked him off, and the entire thing is just in a great spot. It really is great, and I love it. And I love when people do things like this in wrestling. I think it makes so much sense, and I think it also adds relevance to it because it plays so well to you. You and Limitless don't come out as a good guy. You are upset when people are not looking at you, and then it's great because it's so real. It's so selfish, and I love it. I love it. I just love it. I think it's great. And obviously you've upset a bunch of people. I think Kennedy Copeland was upset with you, and then she needed Logan Black to sort of fix her, but that's a different discussion also. And I could say that because I gave her the analogy, and I gave her the analogy that Logan Black is to Kennedy Copeland like Blink is to Still Life with apricots and pears. And if anybody understands that reference, and I know it's from Chikara, but we're all adults in the room, and I think Blink and Still Life would appreciate that very much, and I have to tell Blink that because I do know who Blink is, but we're not going to talk about who Blink is. But I think you know exactly where my mind's going.
Yeah, I know where your mind's going.
But what was even that match like? Because I love Kennedy. I think she's great, and I think she's killing it, much like you are. And I think Limitless just has a lot of really talented new people and people who have not gotten opportunities wrestling for them, and now are getting discovered really, really quickly.
Yeah, like I mean, I in my opinion, like intergender is very like a touchy kind of thing. Like
yeah,
because like you have those matches where you have like guys versus dudes, and the guys versus dudes aren't. It's like you can have great fucking matches. You know what I mean? If you're a guy versus a woman, it's done. It's been done. It can be done. That's a fact. But it's like I just don't like those matches where you have those people that are like legit punching. Like
I'll give a great example.
Yeah,
I love Alexa Bliss. You don't want to see Alexa Bliss versus Brock Lesnar.
No,
that would be a.
Well, let me just rephrase. You don't want to see Brock Lesnar punching Alexa Bliss in the face, like punching her in the face.
Exactly.
Right?
You don't want to see it. It has to make sense. If you have Davian versus Rip Bison, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, like it's not that I won't. I have no problem wrestling in Agenda because I know I can have bangers with anybody. Kennedy, me and her had a banger. Becca, me and her had a banger. Ava, me and her had a banger.
Did you feel Becca's scrunchy?
Huh?
Did you feel Becca's scrunchy? Because she's still looking, I heard.
I'm not getting blamed for that. No. But we got like, bro. It's not that I have no problem. I love intergender matches. I just like there's an art to it. You know what I mean? Like
it has to make sense. It has to make sense. In which there needs to be the story there first, not the wrestler.
Yeah, like there just needs to be the story. Like we can have a great wrestling match and do what we want to do and have a banger and have it 100% better than any other match on the card. But it's just got to make sense. I'm not gonna sit there and like kick somebody in the face 1,000 times. Even a dude, I'm not gonna sit there and punch a dude in the face. Like you know what I mean? I do like the forearms, but I'm not gonna sit there and legit punch somebody in the face 10 times and then expect to have this huge match with them. You know what I mean?
Let's
kick
talk
somebody in the face a million times and do it.
But let's talk about a match that did make some sense, and it was more than one, and that's you and AC Romero going at it. Because you and AC tore it up.
Yeah.
Very much. And that made a lot of sense in a lot of ways because Ace Romero, for those who don't know, is somewhat of a gatekeeper at Limitless. Obviously, I think he bested you one, and then you were very upset with it and pissed off. And then you wanted another match, and you ended his victory streak on the road, I believe.
Yeah. He
And
ended
so,
mine, and I ended his.
and so, what was that like? Because obviously, Ace Romero's a big guy. Like,
Yeah.
he's a big guy, and he's like a bulldozer, to put it bluntly. And so, what was that like getting to work with him? And obviously, he's been on TV, and he's done a lot for Limitless, and I think it also gave you a lot of credibility. It certified you as a heel in many ways, and so there's a lot of stuff that this rivalry started, and then we fast forward to the Vocational Cup, and obviously I think
Vocational Man Cup, yeah.
to get into the Fatal 4-Way match. And so obviously there's some heat between the two of you, and I think it's unfinished.
Yeah, like me and Ace had that first match because the road was happening, and I wanted to work him, and he wanted to work me, and we had that first match, and we just kind of had that little tension, but it was a good match. Like because me and him just went out there and beat the crap out of each other. It was a fight, and he kind of just looked at me, and he was like, I kind of just looked at him and was like, rematch. He looked at me, he was like, yeah, ain't no punk shit, right? I'm like, ain't no punk shit. And then we end up like the whole like rivalry ended up being, it was just us going into it. You know what I mean? Like we kind of like there was no real plan for a second match to happen until it kind of was just like, let's do it. You know what I mean? Like, and like I don't know if it's over because like I said, I moved my hands too much. But like I said,
But do you feel that the best rivalries should write themselves? Because this seemed like it wrote itself versus it being, booked ahead of time and it planned that. It was just like, great, we just had a match, somebody bested me, and this is no more punk shit, right? Like, let's go at it again. And like that, and like this felt real. You know what I mean? Like your promo on this, you being pissed off backstage with Ethan, I think, like that felt real.
It
like,
was real.
That's my point. It's like even like the Kennedy thing when you beat her, that felt real. Like there's a certain point when something feels real. It feels like, oh, I get it. I could feel the emotion on it. Like I understand the person's position. Sometimes, when a heel loses, you're like, yeah, that son of a bitch deserved it. But in this case, you're like, oh shit, he's pissed off. Like he seems genuinely upset. Like, was this supposed to happen, or did he get injured? Like, there were questions about that. And so, and then when you beat him, it's like, holy shit. And you could just feel like the entire room just drop like a bunch of degrees because that was unexpected in many ways. And nothing against you, but it was like, oh, this happened just now. He just beat the gatekeeper and ended his streak. This is real now. Oh shit. This is like a pivotal moment. You know what I mean? Like that's how that entire rivalry felt before the Vocational Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was kind of like that gatekeeper, you know what I mean, and someone who's coming in basically trying to make claim. Because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to show everybody that I belonged in Limitless and I needed to be there. And, who better to show the fans and, the people who were there than facing the person who was legit, the Hulk Hogan of Limitless, and that was Ace. And after, I was pissed, like with the Kennedy thing. I was mad because the whole time she's making me look a fool. She's like ripping my arm out my socket, and I can't do nothing about it. So yeah, I'm gonna knee her in the face. And with Ace, yeah, I was pissed because there was my shot to show everyone at Limitless or everybody on IWTV or even the people that were, watching from TV or whoever was watching that, I'm here and this is mine and I'm here to stay. And I lost, and I was like, bro, this can't happen. No punk shit, bro. Let's have another rematch. You know what I mean? Let's do this. So,
yeah, I love
it. Emotion. It's just me times 10, but bro, I don't have really a persona. So when I get mad, I'll get mad, but I just outlet into wrestling. You know what I mean? Not stupid shit.
And then obviously you beat Ace again, which I think solidified it, and I think it created a lot of credibility. And then you're in a Fatal 4-Way with Christian Casanova. Limitless title is up for grabs, And obviously, you and him are going at it. I think two other people are involved in this match too. But even still, just being in another match with Christian, and at this point, what was going on? I think we need to backtrack. There was some stuff going on, and like he sort of costed you a match, and he was creating something because for those who don't know, the locker room is in the crowd at a Limitless show right now due to COVID, and so obviously you were pissed off, saying all eyes should be on me. And all eyes were not on me during that match. And like you were pissed off. And it was crazy. And I think like you might have tried to cost him a match. And like basically this rivalry was built and started picking up steam going into the Vocational Cup and all that shit. And like, what was that entire thing like? Because now we got the two of you going at it, and there's some unfinished business. There has to be. And I think you want that title. You want that title. I know you do.
I want that title, dog. Of course I want that title. That title should have been mine at the Vacation Land Cup. If anybody who didn't watch it, I had to get knocked out for them to even get me out the match, because that was the only way they were getting me out the match. The thing with Christian was like when Anthony left, and then with that vacancy of the title, it was Christian at that point was the biggest baby in the company. And, with Anthony being, dipped, he was the biggest baby other than Ace. And, Christian was trying to, show himself and be like, listen, I've had these matches. I that's my title. And I was like, no, I'm done. Like, especially after I beat Ace, I was like, I'm going after that title. Like, that's my title. I've already beaten the Gatekeeper. So now it's my opportunity. So we kind of like, it was just both of us just trying to like basically set our mark. The power, it was a power vacuum because everybody wanted to get to the top, and me and him were just like butting heads to get to that top. We were just grabbing each other's legs and pulling us down off the mountain. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think it was built so well because I think that AG, obviously, the entire road was sort of set up for AG to leave and as a farewell in many ways, and it was great and rightfully so. But I do feel that when Anthony Green left, and obviously he's August Gray now in WWE, and look, I'm happy for him, and I'm super excited to see what he's doing right now. And the Cruiserweight is great, and he deserves to get his payday. He does, and then he's wanted to be there for a long time, and he's been on twice, and I'm very fortunate that I got to interview him twice. A lot of people now want to interview him, and well, they can't. It's a privilege. It's not a right.
Yeah.
But he's a great wrestling mind, and the Indies are going to miss him tremendously. I know that for a fact. The Indies lost something when AG left.
The New England territory lost something when AG left.
So the DMV lost something.
He was the guy that was in everything. Like, he was the guy that was in every locker room. You know what I mean? Like, he was like just the guy. And like I said, like even right now, it wasn't even just like for the Limitless. It was just like, me and Christian were both like, we want to both be the guy. And with the guy not in the area, you know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of just like, who's going to step up? Who's going to take it? Who's next? You know what I mean? Like, who's going to be the guy that's in every locker room that people look up? Like, who's going to be the next AG? Just like there was somebody before AG, you know what I mean? So
yeah, and I think that's something that people also don't realize about wrestling is that we hear that, well, if WWE takes all the top guys from all these indie promotions or AEW does it, well, guess what? People are going to step up. I mean, you stepped up. Christian Casanova stepped up. I think in many ways Kennedy has stepped up. I think Basic Becca. I think
Rip Bison.
Rip Bison. I think, Delmy.
Shannon Thomas is stepping up.
Ashley Vox. I don't know about Layla Hurst so much.
Layla Hurst is nasty. She's on AEW before she got.
She's getting
nasty, dog. She's already up there, dog. That's the thing. She was doing a tour in Germany and then came back and then went and did another tour in Germany. I was just like, yo, what the? You know what I mean? She's nasty, dog.
She's great though. She's great. She's great, and she's killing it, and she's getting the right amount of attention. And I'm just pissed that I didn't get to interview her yet. So. But that ship might have sailed, and I'm okay with it because I did tell me, so I'll count my blessings. And I have you on, which is also great because hopefully you'll get signed sooner rather than later. But I digress.
Yeah, if they want me.
Having said all that, I mean, obviously, I think that's something that's super important to acknowledge that, well, a lot of people when AG left, and AG is a really hard position to fill in for what he has done and and the knowledge he has and his mindset and the fact that, I mean, he said something great on my podcast, on my first one and on the second one. He said, I was approached saying I could be a really funny, character and make like 3 times my money, or I could be a really good wrestler and have a championship belt. And well, he did the retrosexual and he chose one thing, but I think that he also proved that he could be a humorous character to some degree and still be a champion. And I think that's something that I think he was partially wrong on his point, and I call him out on it right here, right now. And I sort of told him also privately, but he also has proven that he's so good and that he has so much knowledge. But the point that I'm trying to get across with everybody here is that obviously you stepped up. So what is that like now that there's a spot to fill and that there's more attention on you, and that now you have, I don't know if you have a moral obligation, but you got a wrestling obligation to, help fill that gap up in Limitless, because I think that it could be made up in the aggregate.
Listen, Mark Henry said to me on a show, like on a big time trip before, he was just like, closed mouths don't get fed. It's true. If there's a spot open, if there's an opportunity for you to get on a show, you take it. Because at the end of the day, that opportunity may not be there the next day. You know what I mean? Like it's just closed mouth don't get fed. If there's that spot, because AG got signed, AG was the top dude in New England. If there's that spot open, it's only going to show who really wants that spot, who really wants to be signed, who really wants to be top dog. Because you'll see the guys who won't step up and they'll stay in their place, and then you'll see the guys who want to be there and want to be that top spot, want to be the champion, want to be in every locker room. They're the ones that want to be the next up to be signed. You know what I mean? And it just that's what that does. When you have that top guy out, it just proves who wants to be better, who wants this shit, and who doesn't want this.
Yeah, I think that is very much true, and I think that when all these people do get signed, I think there's 2 mentalities right now in the wrestling world. It's like, oh man, all these promotions are going to fail, or a bunch of people are going to step up. And I think Limitless has shown that a bunch of people are stepping up when people get signed, and I think that's super important to acknowledge. And obviously, even going further off of that, I think Limitless, in the middle of COVID, in the middle of hell, solved the problem in many ways. The road came out as a result of COVID in many ways, where shows sort of started getting canceled. End of March, Mania gets canceled. Nobody knows exactly what COVID is back in April. And then Limitless did a few summer shows, and obviously we spoke about some of that stuff. And then COVID cases started spiking back up, and the road was built. And obviously one of the things that the road did to give it more of a crowd feel is that all the wrestlers are sitting in the crowd. Yeah, I don't know if you're sitting in the crowd sometimes, but
I am. I sit in the crowd as much as I can. But if I got a match coming up or anything like that, then I can't. You know what I mean? And all of that, but like, just there's certain amount of seats because we're all 6 feet and we're respecting guidelines, so you can't yeah.
So to talk about that, what is that like to watch your fellow wrestlers wrestle? Because there's twofold. Obviously, you want to cheer on certain people, or if you're a bad guy, you want to boo the good guys, and you want to give it that crowd vibe. But also, in many ways, I'm the type of person that I learn by watching, and so obviously, you're still new to wrestling. You're 4 or 5 years in, and you could always be learning, just in general. And so what is it like to watch people like a Rip Bison, who's been wrestling for, I think 10 years longer than you have been? And so, you can pick up stuff from Rip Bison or a ZPB. ZPB's been wrestling for 18 years. He obviously has a lot of experience and tricks in his book. That's super, super cool. Not to mention that you might have matches with some of these people 3-4 weeks down, and how you could also pick up stuff and things can formulate in your head on how to do things, and they can do the same to you. So it's obviously a very cool experience, and I like it a lot, actually, because I think it's great that we at least get to see some resemblance of,
of a live fans, yeah.
but also, we also get to see wrestlers, and we also say, oh man, I didn't see, Alec Price on the card yet, and he's in the audience. Oh, he's still with Limitless, and oh man, he might have a match coming up.
Yeah.
Or that he might have a match coming up in like 2 weeks from now, and like I'm glad to actually see that he's still around. And so I wouldn't say it's a pop, but it's also like, sort of a little like cameo appearance at the same time. So I know there's a lot of stuff I just asked in that.
Yeah.
I talk to a lot.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's dope because obviously other wrestlers will care about you and other wrestlers. You know what I mean? So it's just dope to have their experience and them to be able to be like, yeah, and cheer you on, and to still have that aspect of just not, because it's awkward when you're sitting there and you're having a wrestling match in front of quiet people.
Yeah,
it must be awkward.
Weird. It must be so weird to like have nobody there, and it's just like,
no, it is. It's extremely weird. Like, just have no one there. You just the only thing you hear is just like, it's just not. Because I've been at that. Like, there was an event that I wrestled on when I was like green, and it was at like a Kumite festival, and here are us, these guys that are in having championships.
You're trying not to laugh about it. I know you're trying not to laugh about it because there's about 10 things that want to come out of your mouth.
No, it's just dog. We're at a Kumite festival, so it's these little kids that are sitting there padded up, beating the living crap out of each other, doing martial arts, and then because they rented the ring, so in between each of these little kids beating the living shit out of each other, you would have a wrestling match. So you go out there and everybody's just like hands on, like ass on their hands, like not clapping, no, like I remember one of the wrestlers, like I'm wrestling him and he just looks at me, he's like, it's kind of awkward if you guys just don't say anything or just don't make any sound. So what I mean, give us just a little bit, you know what I mean, just because they're there to watch their kids beat the crap out of other kids. They're not there to watch grown men have this wrestling match. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, yeah, bro. And I'm looking at the little kids talking to them. They're all like, "Yeah, all right, you ain't kicking no one's butt. You ain't doing nothing." They're all freaking padded up, ready to fight me. And all the freaking the parents are just like, "He's gonna mess you up. So just keep trying him. Come on, keep trying him. He's gonna mess you up." Like, like, you know what I mean? But yeah.
You're probably could have taken at least 2 or 3 of those kids, right? Like,
I was taking all of them. I don't even care if you do Kumite, dog. Before my parents couldn't afford it, I finished with a yellow belt, dog. So before the struggle was real, dog, I mean, I got a Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee, you know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do. I'm taking some out. I'll take all of them. Shit, I'll take all of them out. They may get me. It's a little Children of the Corn over at the Kumite festival, but
so getting back to Limitless here, because we just took a massive detour.
That I won't be fighting kids.
That might wind up me or you in jail.
I didn't touch no kid. Ain't got no
clue. Saying, the first thing when something goes wrong, this is what they're gonna pull up, and we're screwed. So. But having said all that, I really, really like this idea of the entire thing, and I think it's really brilliant, and I think it's such a good adaptation to solving a problem that obviously exists. I mean, I've seen a fanless show. I saw a WSU show, and there was nobody in the crowd, and it was just 2 wrestlers going at it, and it was just so awkward, and it was so weird. And it's just like you have people, and some of the people were from New England, and it was just like, oh, this is rough. It was rough, and so I know exactly how it feels. So at least when you're wrestling, it must feel at least somewhat less awkward, because at least somebody's watching your match, and it's not just being filmed, but you're getting a sense of, hey, at least there's 15, 16 wrestlers watching us, and they're engaged to some degree. So, and obviously, you guys are cheering and booing and stating things, and obviously it's kind of a cool thing. I think it's really smart what Randy did or whoever's idea it was.
Yeah. No,
And then
no, it
also,
definitely is.
and then also what I think helps tremendously Limitless as well is that you get those backstage interviews, because that I feel does two things. A, it makes it feel more like a fight. We see in UFC, those interviews in the ring. We see it outside of the ring. We see promo stuff. And then also it's kind of like, I mean, we spoke about it before, but you get pissed off. You're like, I'm the best. And also gives you a chance to cut a promo in many ways. And I think it also kind of adds saying, okay, I get that this is pre-taped and it's not live, but also it's this idea that we're also interjecting things and we're adding personality now into it. And I think wrestling is super important to add that in there. And
Yeah.
so I think that's another great thing that Limitless has done.
Yeah, the road has definitely been able to keep Limitless, you know what I mean, like still relevant and actually make it even more. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying because Limitless was huge before, but the road, like, and
It amplified it.
Yeah.
By definition, it's just been amplified tremendously. And obviously, I don't know when your season 2 is ending, if it's ever going to end, because I don't see a point in it ending. I don't see a point in having a season 3 at this point. Rather, I think that it should just continue onward, and it should be the road this episode, the road this episode, the road this episode.
I think it should be a season 3. You know what I mean? I like the season kind of format because it lets us tell different stories. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm not sitting there with like Randy being like, da da da. I just go in and be like, what do you need me to do? Yeah, like, no, just walk in and just be like, what do you need me to do? You know what I mean? Like, I got you. Like, so like, yeah. I mean, Limitless is doing awesome. The road, like, I like the season kind of thing of it. You know what I mean? Like, just allows you to tell different stories from different poets. Like the narrator for the first season was Anthony Green. Now the narrator for the second season is Danger Kid. You know what I mean?
Danger Kid, and this is the road. I'm not Danger Kid.
Exactly.
I'm not Danger Kid though.
Join with us. Let's go down the road together. Like, it's just it allows you to kind of just tell different aspects of what the road is for each wrestler, and kind of you can see the growth between seasons too.
Yeah, that definitely. I think season 1 and season 2 are very different. I felt like season 1 was very much about Anthony Green's, story and his journey and where it was going, and his exit out of the indie scene was that entire season. That was the main plot line. If we put this almost like a comic book with a bunch of stuff going on, that was like Anthony Green was like the center Superman figure of like the Justice League, if we're going to give a comic analogy during season 1. And I feel like season 2 is like Young Justice.
Yeah.
So now we're getting all those rising stars, and we're getting some of the old people like Nick Stapp or Eric Johnson, who are mentoring the young, heroes rising type of feel. And then, I want Civil War in season 3.
Shit, I mean, I'm hoping, dog. I mean, Civil War would be lit though. But I don't have anything. Headphones again.
They're gonna watch this and they're gonna steal my ideas. Like
they're gonna steal your ideas. I mean, like I'm not. But that'd be dope.
They're gonna watch us and steal it. It'd be great. I have the entire thing mapped out. So if they need a writer, I'm more than happy to lend my services.
I don't know. You gotta talk to Limitless, not me, dog. I just show up and wrestle. Yo, you never know.
But enough about me trying to sell myself to Limitless here. And I want to talk about COVID, because obviously we're on the topic, and I'm super curious because obviously COVID has affected you. As I stated, you turned 2020, which was a shitty year. I don't think that's a secret, into a really good year when it statistically shouldn't have been. So credit to you on that. And then I think you're turning 2021 into the best year that it can be, and you're playing the best, I guess, cards in your hand. I think a lot of people are in many ways. And so I know that that's affected you. So what has that been like to sort of be given a really shitty hand? And collectively, everybody in the world has been given a shitty hand this year and last year too. but some people have played it really well. I mean, last year I did 90 interviews and normally I would do 30.
Yeah.
And this year I'm doing 150, which is I'm doing 5x my capacity that I've done before, and obviously my entire thing and my reach has grown, and a lot of things have come out of this. So I'm curious how you have been affected and what it has been like to adapt, and even where you think wrestling's going, because I don't think it's going to go back to where it was 2 years ago.
No, I think wrestling's gonna evolve. I mean, COVID has just kind of proved kind of just been there, and like it just shows, like I said, like who wants it, who doesn't want it.
Who wants it and who's willing to sacrifice to get it and go the extra step.
Yeah, like every time I have a show, I get tested. Like that's just the stuff that I need to do to make sure that I can do what I want to do, and actually prove that I want to do this stuff. You know what I mean? Like I have no problem doing any of that, getting tested, doing all, because that's what you need to do at the end of the day. Like it's not going to go back to like how it was 2 years ago, but wrestling's going to evolve. Like life evolves, wrestling will evolve, because wrestling's evolved over the years, and it's just going to evolve again. And the people that love it are going to find a way to make it happen. Fans and wrestlers.
And so, I mean, I'm going to just throw some stuff out there because I'm just curious how you're going to react to it. Do you think that there's going to be a lot more streaming? Do you think there's going to be eventually we're going to get back to fan shows? Do you think they're going to be more limited? Because I'll explain where I'm coming from. So I'm a big anime fan. I'm a big comic fan. And I know for a fact there is never, ever going to be 100,000 person con ever again. It's just not going to happen. No. Never again. It's not happening. And so I don't know if there will ever be an 80,000 person football game ever again either, to be honest. And I'm not trying to be negative, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic on it, but I think that things like that are going to evolve. I could see a 40,000 person football game. I don't ever see an 80,000 or 90,000 person football game. You know what I mean?
Like those like giant stadiums aren't going to happen.
Like I don't
like half of it. As long as they're spacing out and shit, like, because even after COVID's over, people are still going to be worried about something. Like, even like the chance of COVID coming back, you know what I mean? So it's like
next COVID or the next. Yeah.
Like, there's a pandemic and a virus every generation. There's a pandemic and a virus. So like, it's always going to be the next big thing. Like even after COVID, but like wrestling will find a way. It's just wrestling will find a way.
I agree, and I think that there's going to be a lot more streaming. I think that there's going to be more limited capacity shows. I think there's going to be more shows, and I think people are going to be more spaced out. And I also think that, and I don't know if you sell merch, and I'm going to give you a chance to promote yourself in a second here, but, I know at shows that like you buy, you could definitely like shake hands with a wrestler, and you could speak with a wrestler, and you could be close to the wrestler. And you're not spitting on the wrestler, making that clear, unless Jake something asks for it. That just throwing it out there. If he says do it, it's fair game. I can't promise you'll come out of it safely, but I can tell you it's fair game.
It's fair game, yeah, exactly.
But in all seriousness, though, before you can take pictures with wrestlers and things like that. And so I'm curious where you think even that's going, because obviously merch is a big thing, wrestlers, and I'm about to break a trade secret, whether, anybody likes me or loves me for it, but, wrestlers go and they drive to a show and, they sell merch and it helps subsidize their trip. It's if there's 500 people there and 50 people buy your shirt, it's a big deal,
20 pop, 50 people buy it. You know what I mean? You're making money. But you also got to take into account that merch buys, like, just, I don't know, like, they, thank God, like, they have, like, pro wrestling tees and sites where you're able to, have your own little store and sell your merch. And I feel like that's going to be the way for indie wrestling merch, is just because, social media is so huge right now. Like, look at, like Astro World hoodies. Travis Scott and them make bank off those. I had an Astro hoodie, like $500. Make bank off of those. You know what I mean? So I think it's gonna be computer stores like Pro Wrestling Tees I don't really see a lot of like going up and seeing like fans seeing wrestlers, but you never know. Um,
Yeah,
you just never know.
I think social media is also massively the key now. I think that 3 years ago you needed to be on social media, but I also think that now it's a necessity as a wrestler. And I was speaking to Jesse Nolan, and now in the dojo they teach them social media classes up in Limitless, and there's a reason why, because you as a wrestler need to know your social media. You need to understand it. You need to have a basic understanding of it. You're on social media, and obviously you have your Facebook page set up, you have a Twitter set up, and that's super important to have that set up.
Yeah,
And so I think that's just bigger than ever as well. I'm in a space where I'm a podcaster, and I'm starting a business, and I'm doing a lot of stuff, and I'm setting up my social media purposely, and that my social media does something, because it is super important in this time. And I'm very active on Twitter. I am very active on Twitter, and I'm actually taking a little bit of a break to set up my next 6 months of social media stuff for Twitter purposely, because it's about to get bigger. So obviously I just want to throw that out there, and I think you're going to echo what I'm about to say and what I just said.
Yeah, no, yeah, you need to be on social media if you're gonna be a wrestler. If you're gonna do anything that has to be on TV or anything like that, you got to be on social media. It's the way of the world now, and if you're not, like, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, because I'm not the greatest social media person sometimes, and that's just because I never grew up with a phone. So, like, my phone could be off for a couple hours, and I really just don't worry about it because I just never grew up with one.
Well, I'm calling BS on that, because you're 6 years younger than me. I'm really good at it.
No, trust me, bro. I'm not. I'm getting better at it now, but I'm really not, because like I grew up poor. I didn't have a phone. I went outside. You know what I mean? Like
my parents were middle class, and they made me go outside. I didn't get a video game system until I was 11. Okay.
Yeah, no, I remember asking for like 4 years straight for a DSi, bro, until finally I got a DSi. You know what I mean?
I didn't get my first cell phone until I was in 9th grade.
Dude, I didn't get my first cell phone until like 10th grade, and I was only
It was a flip phone.
It was only on for a month.
It was great. It was a flip phone. It was cool. It was meant to call somebody if I had a crisis.
Dude, it was struggle's real, dog. I had a track phone with the minutes. You know what I mean? I felt so cool with a track phone.
I was not picking up any girls with it. It was terrible. The only cool stuff I had in high school is I was wearing awesome anime t-shirts. And that was me, that I got for like $10 at FYE. So clearly all the kids were wearing Aeropostale and all like American Eagle and Hollister. I was like, boom, Aquaman up.
Anime, dog. You know what I mean?
And I was like, bite me. And look where all they are at. That's my point. But I digress with that. On that note, I'm going to give you an opportunity to promote what you got, because obviously I know that you have a Facebook page. I know that you have an I don't know if you have an Instagram. Do you have an Instagram? And I know you have Twitter.
So you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter right here. You can see it in the little corner at the Prize City OG. You can follow me on my Facebook at Alec Price. I may or may not accept your friend request, but you can go to my Facebook page, The Prize Alec Price, and give me a follow on there. And yeah, that's all my stuff. I got my pro wrestling tee store set up, The Prize Alec Price. Got 3 designs on there, new one coming soon. And I got shows coming up, so just be ready. Watch IWTV, watch Fight. You'll see my face on there. You know what I mean? That's all I got to really say.
And hopefully we're going to see a lot more of you on Limitless.
Back. Oh, you know that. You're gonna be seeing me a lot more everywhere. 2020 is the year of the prize.
You mean 2021?
2021, yeah. I don't know, bro. It still feels like 2020. That's how bad 2020 was. Like, you know what I mean? Like the first year of 2021, it was just crazy.
The divorce isn't finalized. This is how I view it.
Yeah, like it's coming. After January, I'm gonna be like, all right, 2021. But 2020 was so bad because of COVID and stuff. You just gotta get a few extra months. Yeah.
And now, I have been saying this to everybody, and I always say it. You have to support indie wrestling. You have to support indie projects. Obviously, Alec has a bunch of merch. He's got T-shirts And that's probably the best way economically to support you, because you
Mm-hmm.
buy a shirt, you get a piece of it, and that's how it all works. And obviously, when you buy it, it's that's kind of how it works. But I also have been saying that, look, COVID has wrecked a lot of shit in a lot of people's lives, and it's done a lot of damage to people's economics. Crises have come up. People thought they were secure in their finances when they weren't. And if you're in that situation, the first thing you should be taking care of is your electricity, I don't know if I can still be heard, everybody. Yeah, I'm back. So as I was saying, you should be taking care of your electricity. You should be taking care of your four walls, your roof, your water, your food, your shelter, your family, your animal, and you should be taking care of your life first. And obviously, if buying a t-shirt is going to put all of that at risk, you should probably hold off.
Yeah, don't do it, dog. Make sure you take care of yourself first.
But I will say this, that social media is free. And you should absolutely be following people on Twitter, following people on Instagram, following their Facebook page, sharing their content. If you're watching Limitless and Alec is wrestling, freaking tweet at the guy.
Yeah, tweet at me.
You
give
a
video of my match.
Share different things, because that makes a huge difference. And legitimately, you can go through Twitter and spend 5 minutes and like 15 of those tweets that he puts out, or like 3 Instagram pictures, and it makes the biggest difference. And it's going to take you no time at all. And so at this point, if you can't support economically, you should be supporting by following on social media. And also you should be following Limitless and a variety of other promotions, because it does make a difference. It's super important. And if you are supporting economically, you should still be following on social media, because that does still matter. And you should be minimally following on social media. You got 3 options. And definitely, I just encourage everybody to do it, because it makes the biggest difference and it's super important. And so on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
Just thank you for having me on the show, dog. Thank you for everybody that watched it live. And I appreciate, you having me on here to voice my opinion about some stuff and just, have a fun time. Thank you, bro.
Well, thank you for being on, and I absolutely appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see what you do next, and I can't wait for you to get out of New England and come down northeast, as well as possibly even get down south, because I think you're going to just tear it up.